So now we're going to talk about Rotten Tomatoes. So like I said before in the intro, on Collider Movie Talk, John Schnepp, John Campia, Mark Ellis, and Jeremy Johns. A lot of Johns in there. They were talking about how Baywatch and Pirates of the Caribbean 5, they both recently got terrible Rotten Tomato scores. And the studios were talking about how Rotten Tomatoes has ruined the fun popcorn flicks of the summer that normally are kind of critic-proof because they're not really supposed to be taken serious in any way. And they're just supposed to be shove popcorn in your mouth, watch the movie. And they were talking about eliminating critic reviews or early screenings for those type of movies and things like that. And they went on this whole thing of how stupid that would be. We're going to play one clip here. We'll start off with Mark Ellis's clip of how he feels about Rotten Tomatoes.
Outsiders are correct on a surface level that people see Rotten Tomato scores and it may eke them away from a movie, but when you get deeper, make a good movie and you don't have to worry about the Rotten Tomato score because it's going to be good. Look at what Wonder Woman did. It's got a great Rotten Tomato score, so people are probably going to flock to that movie. Whereas with a Pirates or a Baywatch, I didn't see Baywatch. I haven't heard great things. I did see Pirates, and I didn't give it a fresh review because I didn't think it was that good. So you have people, as a general movie-going public, you're going to look at something easy. That's what Rotten Tomatoes does, where it's not one critic, it's an aggregate. So if you look at something that is just a score, it's a lot easier for somebody who is just deciding what movie to go to be like, oh, well, this has that percentage, this has that percentage, as opposed to the old days where you had to go to your USA Today's, your Chicago Sun-Times, whatever you read to see, oh, no, I want to see this movie now because of what this critic says. So
to me in that, he kind of contradicts himself a little bit. First, he talks about how easy the score is on Rotten Tomatoes and that it's easier for people to look at a score, and then he talks about actual critic reviews. There's a difference between the Rotten Tomatoes score and critic reviews.
Which we brought up a lot before.
Yeah. I think what people don't consider is that, to me, that's two different things. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about the Rotten Tomatoes score and critic reviews, people aren't looking up the critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes because no one gives a shit about the fucking critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, in a lot of cases, he brings up Wonder Woman. Oh, Wonder Woman got great critic reviews. So, if you make a good movie, then you shouldn't have to worry about it.
Which is not always true.
Right.
Which is not always true. I pulled up an article on a couple movies here that are very divisive by critics, and most people would think today are pretty good movies. Man on Fire with Denzel Washington. It has a lot of great clips, or great highlights from it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people love that movie. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 39%. Fan rating, 89%.
Yeah.
50% difference.
Yes.
All right? They made a good movie to a lot of people. Right. And the critics don't agree. So then we have, here's one. This one's for you, because I think you like this movie. Patch Adams. 22% on the critic score.
Wow.
74% audience. 52% difference. And remember what he's saying. If you make a good movie, you'll get a good score.
Right.
Okay, so you're telling me none of those movies are good to anybody, right?
Yeah. Well, and one of the arguments that has always been brought up in the past that I hear is, well, if you were to talk to, and I actually believe I brought this up in a previous podcast, if you were to talk to a bunch of your friends and ask them if they liked it or they didn't, that's kind of what the Rotten Tomato score is giving you. You don't have to ask 10 of your friends because 10 of the critics are on there. Well, that would be more of the fan side of things.
Right.
Because a lot of times the fans get on there and they're like, hey, I enjoyed this movie, or I didn't, and it goes up or down based on that.
A fun little pothead flick, and I think a lot of people actually really love this movie because I hear it quoted all the time. Grandma's Boy.
Oh, yes.
Grandma's Boy.
I love that movie.
16% critic rating.
Fuck you.
Audience, 85.
Oh, man.
Difference of 69%. And one of the big...
69%?
Yes. And one of the biggest ones is Boondock Saints, which I think is a really fun movie. Has the guy from Walking Dead in it. I can't remember his name right now off the bat. Norman Reedus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Norman Reedus in it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's made in 1999. Boondock Saints, really funny, really good action movie. They have the Rotten Tomatoes critic rating, 20%. Fan rating, 91%. Overall difference, 71. And you're telling me that if you make a good movie, you get a good rating. Right. No, that's not true because people are wrong.
Yes.
And your aggregator system is wrong.
Yes.
And, and it's flawed and it's fucked up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense anymore because and we'll hear about this a little bit later in some of the other quotes that we have from that Collider movie talk where they have that discussion, but it's not an average.
Right.
It's not an average.
That's
you got to
been
remember
our biggest
that.
problem.
It's never an average. It's whatever someone accumulates a score of rotten or fresh.
So I have a perfect example of that. I saw this through Instagram, and it took me a little bit to find it, but on Twitter, he's a critic reviewer on Rotten Tomatoes, and his name is Keith Watson. I'm not sure what website he's through, but he is at Wolfman's Razor on Twitter, and one of his followers actually responded to his Wonder Woman review tweet and said, "Nice review, but I must ask, being that you gave 2.5 out of 4, did you intend for it to be rotten on Rotten Tomatoes?" And Keith Watson's response was really interesting. He said, "Thank you. I was more positive than negative on the film, but I have no control over how it's marked on Rotten Tomatoes." So you could give your review, you score it however the fuck, and then you look at it and go, "Oh, well, I guess that means it's rotten. Well, that wasn't really my intent, but okay, whatever." Kind of thing. So how many times that happens, who knows? But that is the fucking critics don't even know how it works.
Right.
And it blows my mind that someone like the Mark Ellis.
Yeah, Mark Ellis.
That he is a Rotten Tomatoes critic, and you would think that he would recognize, oh well, it's probably not as clean cut as it should be.
And this guy probably would have maybe adjusted his score a little bit. From what I understand, if it's a 70% or lower score, it becomes rotten. If I get that correct, it's either 70 or 60. I can't remember exactly. Okay. So I'm guessing 2.5 out of 4. We're terrible at math, and I should not have brought this up without planning ahead of time.
Yes, I was like, wait, fuck, hold on, let me see. Would be 62%.
Okay. He gave it basically 62.
I hope. Cross-check my work, but I'm pretty sure it's 62%.
So according to Rotten Tomatoes, that's rotten.
Right.
And that doesn't seem like that's what that guy really intended.
Yeah.
He may not have liked the movie as much, but he said in his tweet, he was more positive towards the movie. Him personally was positive. His score may not meet the standards that Rotten Tomatoes has, but he felt positive about it.
Right.
So even though he's positive, Rotten Tomatoes made it rotten.
Yeah.
Because of their algorithm.
Yes. And knocked it down a little bit.
Yeah. So this guy actually felt, he actually liked the movie, but Rotten Tomatoes made it rotten. How many times does that happen? I remember hearing that a lot about Batman versus Superman. Mm-hmm. Was that people may not have really loved it, but they didn't hate it. But it just kept accumulating this rotten
scores. That keeps
because it's not
down.
An average.
Right.
Because if it's less than, I believe it's 70%. I'm not positive, but it's in that area.
That would make sense. That's about a C, right?
It's in the ballpark range there. If it gets below 70, so anybody that does below 70% of what their score is automatically makes it rotten. So if you have a bunch of 68s, 69s, 65s, if you have a bunch of those people may not have hated the movie, but they're rotten.
Right.
So it's a fucked up system.
It is.
It's a completely fucked up system. So now we're going to jump into John Campea, which he's the head of Collider. He's one of the main guys on there. I actually really do respect this guy, but sometimes he doesn't quite listen to what he's saying. And he says something here I thought was very interesting because I brought this up a while back on one of our Rotten Tomatoes rants.
He just doesn't explain it as well.
Yeah. So now we're going to jump into that one.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot. I do a lot of, if you're like me at all, I do a lot of shopping on Amazon. I buy a lot of crap off Amazon. And one of the first thing my eyes go to when I'm looking at certain products is, what do the people say about it? What is the score on it? Because if I'm looking at a new piece of computer equipment or a new piece of video gear, whatever, and it's got like 1 star, I'm just going to pass on it. And that is a protection system in place for we, the consumer. And look, going to the movies is an investment. Consumers should have a layer in between the corporate machine, which is the corporation putting together trailers and trying to trick you into going to see their movie. And that's their job. I don't mean that in a derogatory. That is their job, to trick you into going to see their movie. And the consumer, there should be that middle layer there where you've got a group of people that do see the films and they say, hey, well, this is what we thought of it. Now you decide if you want to go see it. This whole notion, though, that it's always studios that put out bad movies that will try to create this illusion that film critics are somehow some different race of creatures other than human beings. No, look, take a look at this guy. This guy right here. Look at that face. That is a Rotten Tomatoes critic.
This is a tomato.
All right? That is a Rotten Tomatoes critic. Now, also, you can find a friend, like a friend of ours, James Rocky, who's a Rotten Tomato, and he's a suit-wearing, different... the thing is, there are like 500 critics on Rotten Tomatoes, like from all different walks. They're all different types of people, and you're going to get an aggregate score of what people are. But do you want to make sure you want to solve this problem? Make a good movie.
Okay, so he uses the Amazon comparison in this one, which is what I did before, and that's how I think a aggregate system, not even aggregate system, a critic system, if you want to bring together a bunch of mass reviews on a movie, I personally believe that's how it is. If you break it down to 4 stars, or 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, something similar to Amazon. The difference is, though, yes, they do show you a 4.5 star for a certain product at a certain reviews, but then you can click and actually find those reviews. It's not like you can click on the percentage of Rotten Tomatoes and then get what ones are negative and which ones are positive. No, you got to try to scroll through the website, find these people, locate them, power through all the ads and shit that comes up. And again, it's not an average. On Amazon, that's an average.
Right.
This is not an average.
A solid average. And
this is based on yes or no.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what that scoring
fresh
system
or
is
rotten.
doing.
That's it.
Yeah. End of story.
Yeah.
It's not an average. And I hate that. They keep calling it an average. And people are not against critic reviews.
No.
I hate that they keep going back to that argument. It's not, I mean, some studios, some people might go against critic reviews in general if people are really against other ones, but I've never had a problem with anybody reviewing a movie.
No.
I have a problem with how this score is accumulated.
Exactly. And how big of an impact that it has on the consumer. And they keep going back to the companies, oh, you have to put out a good movie if you want it to stop complaining about the score, put out a good movie. Well, Matt just rattled off several movies that were good movies to the majority of the audience, but the critics panned it for one reason or another. And one of the reasons why we're so fired up about this is Baywatch. You're supposed to go into it expecting one thing, and it was clear that they did not. The critics. So you can say one thing or another, but if they're saying, okay, this isn't for the people who are going to critique the plot line and the character development and blah blah blah, it's supposed to just be a stupid funny movie that, you know, then and it's getting critiqued completely incorrectly. Yeah, I could see them being hesitant. Well, maybe we're not going to let critics see this. Let's just see how the fans perceive it.
And I've talked about this before. When it's basically been dumbed down to a score or the fact if it's called certified fresh or rotten is when it's the problem.
Yeah.
Because it's not the reviews, and I know I bring this up every time. It's not the reviews on DVDs anymore, or Blu-rays, or your Vudu, or whatever service you use for that. It's the score, and if it's certified fresh.
Yep. Exactly.
That is what is on there.
Those two logos. And I do agree with Campia when he said that consumers should have a layer between the company that's trying to push the movie, because they're going to push it. They're going to use all the positive things that they can about it, one way or another, whether it's trailers or just advertisement across the board. There should be a layer, but it should be a more accurate layer that people can follow. But when you're going on there, and I know a lot of people offhand who aren't like huge moviegoers, but when they're trying to go through and maybe rent a movie, they have a little bit of time, without the kids or whatever, they'll go to Rotten Tomatoes and be like, oh no, that didn't get a very good review. Right. Okay, well, you're just missing out on a good movie then. Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, there's always, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. It's not a foolproof system. But to rely on the system and to constantly defend the system is where I get annoyed.
Yeah.
If you just said, okay, it's out there and just lazy people use it, fine. That's what it comes down to. If lazy people want to use it, let them do it. Let them be stupid. Let them miss out on a possibly good movie, or go watch a stupid, shitty movie that they rated high, Doctor Strange, and and waste their time with that shit.
Exactly.
Because then, fine, do it. But for me personally, I'm not gonna go for that. That's not gonna be my thing. I mean, we talked about we will talk about this in our Wonder Woman review, but Shane and I already we were worried about Wonder Woman, because of how high the score was.
Yep.
It actually worried us that the score was so high.
We talked about it as it was getting closer. We hung out the night before we saw it, and we were talking about like, well, this could be a positive. Matt had watched, some non-spoilers about, well, this is what people brought up that could be a positive of the movie, and like almost convincing us like, no, it still might be positive.
Yeah, it might it might be good. Hopefully it's good.
Yeah.
No, that was a serious note for us.
Yep.
So now we're going to get into another comment, and this they kind of all repeat each other. There's a small snippets here and there, but now we'll get into John Schnepp. He talks about some things, and we'll get into that right now.
It's a sad state of affairs when large studios start doing what a lot of crybaby people were doing last year about Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes, like we've discussed many times, is an amalgamation of a bunch of different critic scores. I mean, You used to go to Roger Ebert, Siskel and Ebert, thumbs up, thumbs down, if you really cared about it. Otherwise, you would just go see the movies like, screw it. That's exactly what people do nowadays with a Rotten Tomatoes score. It's like, oh, Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 77, but I really want to see that movie. I'm going to see it and make up my own mind. You might not go see it if a Rotten Tomatoes score is like at 17. You might be like, woohoo, I'm avoiding it. Even if you thought about it, you're like, I will wait for a video. So yes, I think Rotten Tomatoes definitely has some kind of effect on all of the movies, as it should, because I think it's great. It's an amalgamation. It's a way to look at a generalized score. It's, instead of just going to Siskel or Ebert or Scrimpy or Scrompy, you're going to like a group of people, and then they average it out, and that would be the average film-going audience. Then it's like the overall average. So if you're somebody who loves science fiction and this science fiction film got a 63, you might actually give it an 85 because you love science fiction. You'd be more forgiving of some of the tropes that other people didn't get or went over their head. So, you know, look, when I see that studios are complaining about movies like Baywatch and Pirates of the Caribbean 4, that it underperformed, I think it's because people... 5, sorry. That is, people are just tired of it.
And see, he says it right there at the end. It's an average. It's not an average.
Right.
It's
that's
not
the problem.
See, that's the problem, is that you're making up, these guys, sometimes they make up these situations in their head. Like Campia, he gets close with the Amazon thing, but Amazon isn't average. Rotten Tomatoes is not an average. Yep. You know, Mark Ellis, he talks about, oh, we need to respect, you know, listen to critic reviews and have critic screenings. But then he goes back to the score. He keeps saying, oh, you know, that score, you know, if it's low, it's easy for people and blah, blah, blah. Okay, then it's not an actual review.
Right.
It's not a review.
I think John Snepp brings up a great point, but he brought it up kind of on false pretenses, I guess, that, if you're a sci-fi lover or whatever, you may give a sci-fi movie a higher score.
Right.
That's a great point, but that's my problem with Baywatch, is that the critics they're probably not their target audience of what the movie is supposed to be, and they're going, oh, well, that was a terrible movie. Well, yeah, if that's not what you're into, and that's not what you're looking at. So if these critics are just across the board going through and, all right, I'm gonna watch this movie, critique it. I want to say Jeremy Johns watches pretty much every damn movie. It seems like there was the one that we still haven't watched, the Hercules. Yeah, they he watched for whatever reason and did his review on it. So some of them probably do that, and if you're not the person who is normally going to go see that,
the demographic,
the demographic, then then you're misinformed. It's not your cup of tea anyways, and you're reviewing it, and the score doesn't make sense, and it lowers it. And so the people who actually do want to go see that movie, who have that type of sense of humor, and they know what they're expecting, they look at it and they're like, oh, 18%, I'm not really going to see that.
Yeah, so if it was like an Amazon system, that person would be in the 2-star, 1-star, and you can click on the review, and they should start out the review like, I don't really know the source material. This necessarily isn't my cup of tea.
Right.
I'm not a sci-fi guy or a raunchy comedy guy, or woman, whatever you are. But this is how I felt about the movie when I watched it. So that way you can hear their points and see it, but then that they're already negative on it.
Yeah.
You already know they're a 2-star, 1-star.
Right.
So then you can click the 5 stars and see if those people are on your end, your level.
Yeah, and they can say, oh, I'm a huge Baywatch follower, or whatever it is. I love
The Rock. I love Zac Efron.
Yeah, so I knew I was going to like this.
I like dick jokes.
Right, yeah. I'm immature. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they can click on that, go into it, and those people will probably be like, yeah, I love this movie, exactly what I thought it was going to be. But right now, and like you said, the way that it's broken up, it's so hard to find the actual critic reviews.
Right.
Unless you follow those critics, which it seems like the tweet that I brought up earlier, that guy does. He follows that critic, read it, and said, oh, well, that seems kind of weird. Seems like you gave it a pretty positive review, and even your score reflects that. And then even the critic says, yeah, I did. I was pretty positive on the movie. Wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but I was a lot more positive. And
it wasn't rotten.
Right.
And it wasn't rotten.
Yeah, exactly.
But yet it got a rotten score. And so that's just where I think Rotten Tomatoes fails.
Yep.
And this is why the system needs to be changed, and people need to stop defending it. I know half of these motherfuckers have their jobs there, apparently.
Yeah, it seems like it. I think that's the biggest problem.
And apparently the people that want to keep defending it are the people that are working for it.
Yeah.
So I don't really know if you make money off of being a critic for Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm sure clicks or something.
Maybe, because that's what happens when you click on the reviews. It does take to the website. So that's ultimately maybe brings up some value. I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know what the point of defending it.
Yeah, because you got to hear this by now. You got to know this by now that it's not a sound system.
No.
It's a terrible system. I don't mind having a page full of critic reviews.
Yeah.
That's fine if you want to do that, but don't sit there and have a fucking. I mean, you've a fucking logo on it the whole time. You've basically marketed this as the ultimate thing.
Yes.
This is the decision. This is the deciding factor.
Right.
And whether you disagree or agree with that or not, it's true. It's fucking true.
Yeah.
And it's become the ultimate on whether or not that's all that's been on Instagram.
Yeah.
Is this fucking Wonder Woman getting a positive review.
Rotten
And
Tomatoes.
yes, some of the things are kind of funny.
Yeah, funny or really creative, and we've even shared them. We
Yeah.
said we don't give a shit about what Rotten Tomatoes says, you know.
But that's sad. That's sad to
Yeah.
me that was like the overflowing amount of memes and videos
Yeah.
for like the last week.
Yay, it's certified fresh.
Yeah.
It's the highest
Congratulations.
superhero movie and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I heard I saw one guy on Instagram. He's put like DC, you finally got one. What?
Right? Yeah.
Just because a bunch of room of idiots think that this
Right,
movie's
yeah,
good?
yeah,
I mean, it's
exactly.
a good movie. I mean,
Yeah.
you'll hear about it in our
Yeah.
review, but it's a good movie and everything. But it's just like, what? No. I mean,
Well, going back to kind of the rating system, and it actually has been one of my frustrations with Netflix as of late. They have switched to, if
Yeah.
you think about it, a Rotten Tomatoes type system.
Right.
A thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah.
Not everything. If you're trying to figure out
not an actual average.
right, and
Like it was.
and if you're trying to figure out what I want to watch, I don't think a thumbs up or thumbs down is the way to. It's 5-star or 1-star.
Right.
Like, you know, I was doing 2 thumbs up. Good thing we're not filming this, but yeah, you know, it's 5-star or 1-star. There's nothing in between. Because I would rate a lot, because then Netflix would do a good job at saying, well, you might enjoy this, you might enjoy that, and so I would rate, that's a 3-star, that's a 4-star, and then they would show an average of what everyone else was rating it. But when it's a yes or a no, there's so much in the middle of like, well, okay, what does that even mean? I guess Rotten Tomatoes takes it one step further and actually gives a percentage of, you know,
Right.
that no one knows what it means.
I mean, as we slowly keep doing this, we're kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
I mean, we're slowly figuring out how it kind of comes down to it, but it doesn't. I don't think it represents it. The number does
Right.
not represent a lot of the critics. You got to look at the critic rating.
Yeah.
I think that usually some movies have this. For some reason, I've seen some movies lately that don't have this, but they do actually have a critic average.
Yes.
And I think like BVS theatrical cut got like a 4.9 out of 10.
No, I thought it was even higher than that.
Was it
Maybe-
higher than that?
Maybe it notched down a little
Maybe
bit.
it was
but
Suicide Squad that was 4.9.
yeah,
somewhere around
I
there.
remember, because that was one of the biggest things, and why we fucking started this podcast to begin with, was that BVS, I want to say, was like a 6.2, and on the average, because
Maybe.
that would still be 60% out of
Right.
10, and that would still be rotten. But if then the percentage was like 14% or something stupid like that.
People look at percentages like they do grades.
Right.
If you fucking have a 20, that's an F minus minus minus
Oh,
minus.
yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. If you have a 60, okay, that's a D. You know, that's French 1-2.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah, exactly.
Parlez-vous
That's
français, you know.
Tout ce Pokemon.
Je m'appelle Mathieu.
That's all I got.
That's all I got too.
And again, not bad, 62%.
It got me through, right?
Right, but it's way different to have that than it is to have the percentage.
Right.
And
it's totally made up at this point.
yeah.
It's not a real reflection of the critics.
right.
Not at all.
Yeah,
Not
and
at all.
I also remember with Batman v Superman, when it was around, I'm pretty sure, I don't know how it is now, but at the time it was like a 6.2, and then the fan rating was around like a 74, 75 percent. And I thought, you know what, that's fair. People don't have to enjoy this movie as much as I do, but I thought that was a fair analysis and a fair depiction of how the movie was, not 12% or 14% or whatever the hell it was. That was the critic review.
Like 26 or something.
Okay,
26
so
or 27,
it's a little bit higher. I'm over exaggerating. It felt like it was a 12.
Well, fuck. Suicide Squad bottomed out. I mean, Man of Steel is like at 55, which makes no sense.
Yeah,
that one's hard to believe.
yeah, that one should be higher.
Yeah, a lot higher. And so, Rotten Woman. Wonder Woman currently sits. It's her venereal disease affected twin or something.
Yeah.
Oh fuck. Anyway, so what was it? Wonder Woman sitting at? I think it's at last I saw 94.
Okay.
I don't quite believe it's that high by personal score anyway, but it's still up there, and it's a good movie.